Okay, folks, let's get into this documentary that I've been talking about. I talked about it last week when I recommended it because I knew it was coming out this past Friday. And I just saw the name. It was Unknown Number, The High School Catfish on Netflix. And I didn't know anything about it, but usually with the word catfish and something, I'm like, I will watch that. Ever since the MTV reality show Catfish, which was actually based on a film done by Nev Schulman as well. I've been really into stories like this. I think they're very common and extremely common still, even though we're very aware in the year 2025 that catfish is a thing, that this is something that happens to many people. It might have happened to you. It might have happened to somebody that you know. I mean, we get random texts all the time that try to catfish us on a daily basis. I live in fear of my dad getting catfished. I mean, my God, he's lonely. He'll answer any text at this point. So I'm like, you're going to get catfished. Alas, this is not about Bill Bailey. This is about Unknown Number. Now, as I said at the beginning of the show, and I'm going to say it again, this will have spoilers. Now, I recommended this on Monday's episode. I've talked about it. At this point, I think a lot of you have watched it. I've gotten a lot of messages that said they watched it based on my recommendation, which nothing makes me prouder. Nothing makes me more excited to get those messages. Unless you hate it, and then I feel bad, and I'll be like, I didn't really recommend it, but I recommended this. I thought it was so well told. I thought the pacing was good. I thought it was ethical in a lot of ways. I really appreciated the way it unfolded, and it was still a mystery. Even though you might have guessed who it was at the very beginning, I didn't. I was just kind of sucked into this thing, and I wanted to see where it took me. And I was not aware of this story, even though it's been out there in certain media pieces. Like, we're going to go over an article in The Cut that was released in January of this year, but I wasn't aware of that article. So I went in completely cold. And I think if you go in completely cold to this, it is such a rewarding experience because it is so well done, in my opinion. So if you do not want to be spoiled, no shame in that. There is a timestamp where you can skip past this and you can go to our interview today about Jodie Hildebrandt and Ruby Franke in the 3-part docuseries that's out on HBO Max about them. So feel free to skip this. But if you want to continue, if you've watched it, we welcome your ears and your eyes and all of that stuff, okay? I just wanted to give you one last warning before we start talking about it. And some of you guys might be wondering, some of you might know already, is that where did the term catfish come from? So the term catfish originated from the 2010 documentary Catfish, which I was just talking about with Nev Schulman, and that documentary was the basis for the MTV reality series. And at the end of that documentary, there is a story where a husband used a story about fishermen putting catfish with cod in vats to keep the cod active and alert during transport as a metaphor for his wife, who in this movie kept Nev's character, or Nev, his life interesting and unpredictable through this elaborate deception. And the term gained widespread popularity after that film. So that is where it supposedly originates in the year 2010. So the plot of this story in the documentary, it chronicles a really horrific cyberbullying campaign that targeted this teen couple, Lauren Lucari and Owen McKinney, from this very small town, Beale City, Michigan. And they were receiving relentless, anonymous text messages. These were vile, these were explicit, full of like sexual innuendos, very psychologically damaging. I mean, texts were telling Lauren to kill herself. And this was going on for over a year, and they were all from a block number, and it just kept intensifying for more than a year. And even Owen, once Lauren and Owen broke up, this very cute young high school couple, you know, it happened to other people that Owen had dated, and other friends of theirs were implicated because it really was a whodunit. Which one of these classmates was bullying Lauren and Owen? So the text began in late 2020, and it initially was in accusing Owen of cheating on Lauren Lucari. And hundreds and thousands of texts were sent demanding breakup, urging self-harm, and very, very explicit threats. And suspicion, like I just said, was really falling on the other classmates. School authorities, friends, community members, they all became suspect. And it really fractured the trust within this really kind of tight-knit small town school community. And then the local police, they couldn't figure this out. They could not figure it out. And so the FBI got involved. And they eventually use digital forensics, and they trace the text not to any of the peers that we meet in the documentary. And there are a couple peers where you're like, oh, it's got to be Chloe. It's got to be this girl, Chloe, because they kind of reference her as a bully. And Chloe participates. Like all of these people participated. Lauren Lucari, who is, Kendra Lucari, who is Lauren's mom, she participates, so we don't think it's her. The other parents are participating, we don't think it's them. And then each of the classmates, even though you think it might be them, they participate in the documentary. So you're like, well, it can't be them. They wouldn't actually do a talking head interview about this. So it's very curious, but whoever it was knew such very specific details about everything, about things that were going on at school, about their love lives, about everything. And imagine being a teenager and starting to date somebody for the first time, and it's new and it's fun and you're just young and so full of innocence. And then you're getting text messages of like, oh, if you're not going to sleep with Owen, he wants me, I'll suck and F him. And all of this insanity to a young girl, right? Just sick messages. So once the FBI got involved, they traced the texts. Somebody was using like a burner account and trying to use all of this technology to hide and mask this person's identity. It was not traced to one of the high school members, but it was traced to Lauren's own mother, Kendra Lucari, who participates in this documentary. And we met her at the very beginning of the documentary. And you thought maybe she was a little weird, but you didn't think anything of it, because what kind of mother would do this to their own daughter? Would tell their own daughter to kill themselves, to write explicit sexual text messages at your daughter. So there's a very gripping scene towards the end of the documentary where this is revealed because we have police body cam footage. We also interview, like I said, the director and the producers of the Ruby and Jody Hildebrand docuseries that's out right now, and they make great use of body cam footage as well. And I guess one of the only benefits of being in this time period is that we have so much footage, whether it be from body cams or just cameras on somebody's house. You can use these to tell a story in such a vivid, real way. And sometimes it feels like you're actually there. So it's this very gripping scene where the police come to confront Kendra and to let them know that they know. And it's wild, this scene, you guys, because, I mean, there's so many things that I still don't know. And like I said, this is directed by Skye Borgman. And I had messaged with Skye a couple of days ago, and I thought it was looking good that we were going to have her on So Bad It's Good. Unfortunately, I spoke with Skye today, and that is not going to be able to happen at this point, which is such a bummer. And listen, I think Skye, who knows? I mean, this is the top of the Netflix charts right now, and obviously this documentary, deservedly so, is having its moment. So many people are talking about this, and I think we're at the tip of the iceberg because I think people are going to continue talking about this. Like I said, rightfully so. So unfortunately, Skye is not going to be joining us as of yet, but there are so many questions I have for her. And so many questions, just even in the participation and how she got the participation of the mother. And I've read a few things, which we'll talk about. But in this scene, when you have the body cam footage, there is this table behind Kendra who is being told that they know it's her. It is just a gigantic table of what looks like alcohol bottles. And I'm just like, was she a heavy drinker? Like, they don't really say certain specifics. So, but you just see this table in the background, and it's never mentioned. And you're like, that's got to be it. But Kendra, in this very big scene where it's revealed that it's her, talks about the fact that it wasn't her that started the initial text messages, but then she started text messaging as that person. Now, listen, at the end of the day, I'm sorry. It was Kendra from the very beginning. Kendra didn't see some other random stranger doing this and said, oh, that's a good idea. I'll keep this going. And a lot of people suspect that Kendra, this older mother, had a crush or obsession on her daughter's boyfriend, Owen. I mean, just really, really sick stuff. So Kendra is saying that she did this in a way to protect her daughter, and then it kind of evolved into this completely destructive, compulsive behavior. We also find out that she was lying about having these jobs, in which we find out we watch the police tell her husband that she is the one, and her husband, I mean, flips out, rightfully so. And there's so many questions about that as well, as how did she hide all of this behavior from her husband? Now, she worked in IT, so she was very technically proficient, and maybe that's how she was able to do all of this stuff and hide the numbers and ghost in a certain way like that. But yeah, she was even lying about having these full-time jobs. Um, the documentary touches kind of on parallels of Munchausen by proxy. And the director in interviews, Sky Borgman, said, don't over pathologize that though, which I'm like, it's hard not to, because you're looking for reasons that a mom, a supposed loving mom that coached on all her daughter's teams, her sports teams, was a part of all of these school communities, and saw the pain that it was putting her daughter and the other kids through, how this would keep going, right? So Kendra was arrested in December of 2022. She pleaded guilty to stalking minors, and she was sentenced to 19 months to 5 years, right? She's already out now, but I'm shocked that, it was a plea deal, but I'm shocked that it was not more, especially because this was very sexualized behavior towards Owen. And there is, I hate to say this, a schmedophile kind of type behavior, that it does seem like she was obsessed with Owen in a way, but it doesn't deeply go into that, right? The Cut article does a little bit more, which we'll get into. She was released already in August of 2024. The case ended in her divorce and loss of custody of her daughter, thank God. Now, Lauren, at this point, due to the restrictions from her sentence, is not able to communicate with her daughter or see her daughter until 2026, right? I'm sorry, Kendra is not able to see her daughter Lauren until 2026. But the documentary, and a very sad part of it, is that we see some of the emails, the back and forth between the mom and the daughter in prison. And you can just tell that this mom is trying to to have this bond to stay intact, to have some sort of control over her daughter still, by overly being loving in these emails. And it's so eerie. And a lot of people, I've seen some of the discourse saying, well, the daughter had to have been in on it. I'm like, no, she's just a girl. And you can tell this girl is so shy. She is so shy. And just imagine being this age, being 15 years old, 15, 16 years old at the time, and going through something like this, and looking up to your mom, and your mom being your best friend, and wanting to believe your mom. I don't think she had anything to do with it, but just imagine what her mind is swimming in. And the daughter does say she is open to having a relationship with her mom again. And I just find like, oh my God, she has so much growing up to do. And she needs so much therapy, because this is just so unfathomable. And I think that's why the documentary is so powerful, because it is so unimaginable, right? So here are the cast of characters in this story. So you have the daughter, Lauren Lucari. And when this started, she was 13 years old, a 13-year-old high school student. And her boyfriend, Owen, they started receiving these messages, right? And they were considered at that young age kind of like this golden couple. They both played sports. They both seemed like nice people. And then Owen McKinney, the boyfriend, at the time when this harassment began, and his inclusion in this highlights this broader impact of the abuse by the mom, because it didn't just affect Lauren. Folks, I've been introduced to a lot of products while doing this show, but there is a new product that I have fallen in love with. I am actually going to use my own product code to continue buying these, and that's because our friends at MeUndies is doing the Lord's work. I mean, I am wearing their underwear as we speak. I can't show you, and you probably don't want to see that, but it is Truly an incredible product. As we enter the fall, you're looking for cozy clothes, and you want the same thing for your underwears. So this is style for everyone. Me Undies has a cut for every butt with over 20 different styles in 100 different colors and prints. There is unmatched comfort. Me Undies' signature super soft micro-modal fabric is breathable, stretchy, and unbelievably cozy. It is perfect for crisp mornings, chilly nights, and everything in between. Whether you're layering up for a hike or lounging in flannel all day, Me Undies moves with you and it keeps you comfy. Want even more seasonal comfort? Try the Breathe line. It's designed with moisture wicking and anti-odor tech to keep you fresh through fall workouts or just a long day of pumpkin picking, responsibly sourced as well. They use sustainably sourced materials and work with partners that care for their workers. Not happy with your first pair of Me Undies? It is on Me Undies. That's right. So with over 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 five-star reviews, Me Undies are an essential summer must-have for every drawer. I use this. You need to use this too. So right now, as a listener of my show, you can get cozy and spooky for less with deals up to 50% off at meundies.com/sobad and enter promo code SOBAD. That's important. That's meundies.com/sobad, promo code SOBAD for up to 50% off. MeUndies, comfort that's made for fall. Use the same underwear I'm using. We're talking about our friends over at Mint Mobile. I recently switched, and you should too, because you know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bill. And for a limited time, Mint Mobile is offering 3 months of unlimited premium wireless service for $15 a month on the nation's largest 5G network. Say goodbye to that old plan that is going to be overcharging you. And this network, it is high speed. You get unlimited talk and text. So ditch that overpriced wireless. Get 3 months of unlimited service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/sobad. That's mintmobile.com/sobad. Upfront payment of $45 required. That's equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details. DraftKings Casino has your playbook for gaming action all season long. Play thousands of popular slots for a shot at jackpots. Over 400 million has already been awarded. New players get 500 spins on Huff and More Puff over 10 days. So download the app, use code SOBAD, and claim your spins after your first $5 wager. Get in the game with DraftKings Casino, home of the largest jackpot win in online casino history. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus, physically present in Connecticut, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only, void in Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. New customers only. Non-withdrawable casino spins issued as 50 spins per day for 10 days. Valid for featured game only and expire each day after 24 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. It ends October 5th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It affected all of him and his close connections. Then you have the mom, Kendra Lucari, the perpetrator, the predator in some ways. So she was using tools like texting apps and VPNs, which would mask her identity. Now you find out because she's like, well, you would have to know more about my story. And we find out a little bit about her story once it's revealed that she is the one, but it's still not enough. So she talks about resurfacing childhood trauma, including a sexual assault at the age of 17, which of course, that is so horrific. I still... it's hard to make that leap, though, for doing this to your daughter and her boyfriend and all of her friends. But yes, I'm sure that, I know that wrecks your mind in so many ways. It's just how you deal with that. And obviously, she had not processed any of that. Also, the job loss that she had. They're saying that might have been a motivator as well. Then you have Chloe Wilson. And Chloe Wilson is a classmate of Lauren and Owen and was one of Owen's good friends. And some people thought that Chloe actually wanted to be with Lauren. And she's wrongly accused of sending these messages due to like these tensions. And there was like circumstantial evidence, like area code coincidences. Like she went to Florida and then all of a sudden these text messages started coming from Florida for that time period that she was there during spring break. So you're like, oh my God, it's her. And she's also at some point in the documentary labeled a bully, right? She's labeled a bully in this. So they say this Chloe girl was potentially a bully, right? And listen, I don't know if you've ever been bullied in high school or middle school or elementary school, but they show Chloe, and no offense to Chloe because, I feel horrible, but I was like, yeah, kind of looks a little bit like a bully, like I hate to say that. I know people might come for me about that. So people were suspecting that it was her because she had bully behavior, right? And people thought she might want to be with Owen. But Chloe, even at one point, lets Owen have her phone just to prove that she is not the one sending these text messages. So she was cleared by the police. But obviously, she has also suffered this emotional fallout from being suspected. And since this has been released, she has started making TikToks about her experience, which you should go check out. Now we have Sean Lucari, and that is Lauren's father and now Kendra's ex-husband, who took over full custody of their daughter after this case. And he seems very stable, a very supportive presence, and realizes what their daughter has been through. But we don't really get much into his backstory at all. The investigators we meet are Isabella County Sheriff Mike Main and local police. And they kind of just seem like a little head scratches, like, I don't know what's going on here, And then Bradley Peter, who is the FBI liaison, who kind of had that crucial role of being able to find out that it was Kendra's number. The film also includes interviews with Lauren and Owen's classmates, such as Sophie Weber and Macy Johnson, as well as family members that kind of flesh out a little bit more of the mother's story. This is the cast of characters that we deal with in this documentary. So I found this article, like I said, in The Cut, and it's written by Lauren Smiley. It came out in January of this year, and let's go and read through this together as a weird little family, and maybe this will fill in some of the holes. Now, in this article, they have changed Lauren, the daughter's name, to Ashley Lucari, and I don't know if that was just to protect Lauren's name. I'm not sure. But it starts as, one afternoon in January of 2022, the parents of two freshmen at Beale City High School in Central Michigan gathered in the principal's office. They were there to discuss the texts, vicious anonymous messages flooding the phones of their children, Ashley Lucari and Owen McKinney, sometimes 30 a day. The messages would arrive at any hour, and no one knew who was sending them. Yeah, like guys, the messages would be like even at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Although they were sent to both Ashley, Lauren, and Owen, they mostly targeted Lauren. The cyberbully seemed to know exactly how to pick at her insecurity. The texts mocked her thin frame, calling her an anorexic toddler with a little tyke's body, and slammed her ability on the basketball court. Lauren and Owen dated in middle school but had broken up in the fall of freshman year, and the bully told Lauren that Owen was now trashing her behind her back and flirting with other girls. The bully described in detail the sexual moves they would do with him. One message included a homecoming photo of Lauren with a vomiting emoji pasted over her head and the words skank and hoe plastered in red on her body. In a group thread, the texter asked Owen to help take Lauren down, and told her that Owen had, quote, said his life would be better if you were dead, and, quote, no one will care if you're gone. No one will care if you gone. They would misspell weird words, and instead of Y-O-U, we just put U, the letter U. And remember, this is all coming from Lauren's mom. At the meeting, Lauren's mother, Kendra Lucari, couldn't stop crying. The superintendent and sheriff were there too, but Owen's mother, Jill McKinney, did much of the talking. She hoisted hundreds of pages of text transcripts from a Staples box and passed them around. The sheriff thumbed through the pages. Lauren sometimes texted back feistily, but at other points she would plead, quote, I honestly cannot take any more and will do anything you want if you will please stop. Once again, This is Lauren's mom doing this. The daughter is pleading with this person, this anonymous person in the daughter's eyes. The texter seemed to know a lot about what Lauren and Owen were doing at school. They knew what shirt Lauren was wearing on any given day and how many basketball points she had scored. Quote, LMFAO, 2 points, you suck, she wrote to her daughter. The bully knew Owen had removed the phone case Lauren had given him as a gift, and they tracked his whereabouts in class. Quote, Owen sitting by me in history. Sorry, not sorry. We fucking taking you down, bitch. They constantly changed numbers using burner apps. But Kendra and Jill had homed in on a possible suspect, Chloe Wilson, a popular freshman athlete who had played sports with Lauren since grade school. The previous night, a potential slip-up. The bully gloated in a text about scoring 12 points in the basketball game. At the sheriff's urging, Kendra, who often ran varsity's scoreboard, left the room to fetch the prior night's score. Only Chloe had scored 12 points. At a preliminary meeting with the sheriff's department many weeks prior, a detective had asked Jill if she feared that her son's mental state was bad enough that he might harm himself. She had watched Owen withering, talking back at home, looking miserable, pulling from a reserve of anger on the basketball court that she didn't recognize. But harm himself? Thankfully not. And what about Lauren? Kendra didn't speak. Jill recalls answering for her, quote, the answer is yes, Kendra. We are afraid Lauren could hurt herself. Back in the principal's office, the sheriff said he'd start investigating, and the parents left the campus with renewed hope. Beale City, a farming community with 2 pubs and 1 flashing intersection, seemed like the last place on earth anyone could hide. The landscape is open and flat, broken into well-tended fields and dairies, wind turbines churning overhead. Many of its families boast roots that stretch back generations. It's a place where, as one local said, quote, you want to be perceived as a good person. When a parent is diagnosed with cancer, you start a meal train and sell t-shirts that say, nobody fights alone. Oh my God. When my mom got cancer for the first time, you guys, we have a family photo of all of us in Nobody Fights Alone shirts. You volunteer to ladle cheese onto nachos at the stadium concessions to help the sports boosters and send your kids to practice with extra cleats for the boy who needs some. The heart of town is its prized public school. A single brown brick complex, K through 12, with just 50 students per grade, a foyer decked in sports championship trophies, and a mural chirping, character counts. The parents wanted the cyberbully to be outed and expelled. Most important, they wanted their happy, carefree children back. No one could have imagined that the hunt would stretch on 8 more exasperating months, or that on that January afternoon at Beale City High, the bully had been sitting in the room. In the fall of the 7th grade, Owen sent Lauren an Instagram DM. He had gotten his first cell phone only that year, one of the last kids in his grade without one. Quote, we're those parents, his mother said. Ashley, Lauren, a softball and basketball player in his class, was delicately slim, tomboyish in hoodies and jerseys, her blonde hair sometimes braided in an arch over her crown. She stood out, Owen remembered. Pretty, athletic, super kind. With classic 7th grade diplomacy, Owen had his friends tell Lauren that he liked her. Remember that, you guys? You know, being scared to tell somebody you liked them in like early high school, middle school. After she came to his football game, quote, I texted her literally that day. I'm like, so are we dating, Owen says? She's like, I don't know. Do you want to be? And I'm like, sure. It used to be so simple back then. Owen's parents, Dave and Jill McKinney, had also started dating in 7th grade. Dave had been a star outfielder at Beale City High, a fact that matters in a town that revolves around the school and its state title clinching Aggies. And Jill had been a Beale cheerleader. The McKinneys were an established family in the area. While he coached kids baseball and worked an IT manager at a farm lender, she was a super volunteer at the Catholic elementary school. Kendra, on the other hand, grew up about a 2-hour drive away in the exurbs of Detroit. While studying at Central Michigan University, she met Sean Lucari, a Beale City High alum, and eventually moved into his simple 1-story house. Lauren, their only child, was born in 2007. Locals concede that Beale City can be a tough place for transplants, that anyone who didn't go to school or doesn't have one of the known last names will always be considered from not around here. And though Sean was from Beale, he hadn't been part of the in crowd. A friend of the family says, quote, so I think it was probably important for Kendra to make sure that Lauren was her daughter. The Lucaris declined many interview requests. Lauren, a minor and a crime victim who didn't participate in the article, has been given a pseudonym. That's why they keep calling her Ashley. A former high school basketball player, Kendra coached her daughter's travel softball team in elementary school and later middle school hoops. She splurged to join the spring break caravan of Beale families that flocked south to rent condos on the Florida or Alabama coast. While Lauren was on the quieter side, her friends knew Kendra as the outgoing cool mom. And if you see pictures of Kendra, I don't know if cool mom was, but that's the thing too. Maybe she was insecure about her look, so she had to try to be so outgoing. At school events, she would approach a gaggle of students to gossip. Through softball, Lauren had befriended Paige and Natalie Antcliffe, fraternal twins 3 years older from a longtime Beale City family. And they'd filmed Kendra crossing her eyes, dancing to Sir Mix-a-Lot, cartwheeling down a hotel hallway on tournament weekends. To onlookers, it was clear that Ashley and Kendra were at the center of each other's lives. Lauren and Kendra were at the center of each other's lives, but by junior high, people observed that Kendra would brag about her daughter to the point of annoying other parents. Quote, everything was Lauren's softball, Lauren's school, Lauren's this, Lauren's that, says one. After Lauren started dating Owen, her mother came along too. At every opportunity, Kendra would ask them to wrap their arms around each other for a photo, which Lauren would turn into presents for Owen, like a personalized phone case. When they hung out at the Lucari's, Kendra would chime in, quote, why don't you jump on the trampoline? Take a spin in Lauren's Ranger utility vehicle. Kendra talked about the kids, Jill says, like they were going to be together forever. Once Paige Antcliffe saw Kendra take Lauren's phone and read her daughter's text with Owen. Then, as Kendra typed out a reply, I love you. So her mother would take Lauren's phone and text, I love you, to Owen, the 14-year-old boy. When COVID sent students home in the spring of 7th grade, the Lucaris joined the McKinney's pandemic bubble for dinners and bonfires. Owen was a talented Little League pitcher, and over the summer, the families traveled as a group on their children's tournament weekends and camped together. In 8th grade, Kendra signed up to coach Owen's track team, becoming, he says, like a second mom. A regular spectator at Owen's matches, she drove Lauren 3 hours across Michigan to watch one of his championship games. Once Kendra even suggested turning Owen's tournament in Florida into a Lucari family vacation to watch to which Jill, Owen's mom, had to gently say no. Even so, the McKinneys didn't feel anything was amiss. Quote, the family's whole life was just watching Lauren play sports, Jill says, and Owen seemed an extension of that. Dave saw Kendra's intentions as harmlessly basic. She wanted to belong. A few weeks after they started dating, the first anonymous text hit Owen and Lauren's phone. The jeering messages said that Lauren wasn't invited to the annual Halloween party thrown by Chloe Wilson's mother, Tammy, a Beale City headliner event complete with an elaborate haunted trail through her acreage. Owen showed the text to his parents, who shrugged them off. It must be some kid who just wanted them to break up. For a year, the texter remained silent. Then, in the fall of 2020, when they were in 8th grade, Owen and Lauren got more messages. These are some of the text messages. It is obvious he wants me. His attention is constantly on me. Not sure what he told you, but he is coming to the Halloween party, and we are both DTF. DTF is down to fuck. I'm sure you guys already know that. You watch Jersey Shore. Who knows? By the way, do kids still use DTF? Because I feel like that would have given the mom away immediately, because the mom was like, I watch Jersey Shore. Anyways, here's another text message. He wants nothing to do with you. He thinks you're annoying and an ugly-ass bitch and wishes you would leave him the fuck alone. Why do you think he is on his phone all the time texting me? You didn't get invited to sleep with him. I did. I'm spending the night with him. I'm sharing a bed with him, not you. The text continued sporadically through the end of the year. Jill showed them to school officials who said to block the number. Tammy Wilson caught wind of the incident and called Kendra to assure her that Lauren was certainly invited to the Halloween party. Sometimes Lauren would fight back. Quote, I don't care what you say. Owen and I are solid and you're not going to break us. Other times she'd take the bait. She'd text Owen, was he hanging out with other girls? Did he want to break up? Owen would text or FaceTime back, smoothing things over. But by the start of high school, Owen had begun to pull away from his girlfriend. The texts made up 75% of the reason, he calculates. It's just hard to be with someone after all that, he says. At a volleyball match in August of their freshman year, Owen and Lauren sat apart from each other. That's when Lauren started getting texts from her mother across the gym. Her mother was texting her daughter as her mother, saying, sit next to him, answer me, come here now, I'm pissed, move your ass, now, I am fuming, pissed off, This is fickin' ridiculous. Answer me and move your ass. So the mom was like, you better go sit next to your ex-boyfriend right now. Meanwhile, the anonymous bully was picking up the tempo. Some of the texts seemed to build Lauren and Owen up, while also tearing them down. In September, in the lead up to the homecoming dance, the bully claimed that only one of them would be voted onto homecoming court. Quote, could this be the end of the AKA golden couple with the relationship everyone idolizes? On another day, quote, you're the definition of a perfect couple and will be the forever couple that gets married. Some of us don't want to hear it anymore. So these were all texts from the anonymous person, her mother. Owen and Lauren went to the homecoming dance together, but in early November, he called Lauren and asked to break up. He said he was sick of fighting and the texting had driven down trust. Lauren, he remembers, asked whether they could they could just take a break. Sorry, guys, my sinuses are still acting up. Lauren, he remembers, asked whether they could just take a break. Both cried. To Owen, breaking up was also tactical. He hoped it would satisfy the harasser and they would be left alone. They kept the breakup quiet at school, but in the days after, the cyber bully started declaring victory. Here are the texts. He already chose us, not you. He won't be with you this weekend, so don't even ask. And another one. Maybe you shouldn't have picked cross country over him. You proved he isn't important to you. We were there, though. You don't get with him in bed. You don't sneak out with him. You fucking dress awful. Ain't no guy want that. In the weeks that followed, the cyberbully betrayed an uncanny knowledge of mundane goings-on at school. One morning before a Friday night football game, they called out Lauren for showing up to class wearing Owen's jersey. 11:44 a.m. WTF, you need to take that shit off. You are embarrassing him. When girls' basketball season geared up later that November, 3 freshmen moved up to varsity, but Ashley Lauren stayed on JV. A senior overheard Kendra saying to students in the hallway that the only reason those girls made varsity was because their parents were friends with the coach. But the bully rubbed it in, quote, you suck at basketball. He ain't dating no suck-ass anorexic, not good enough JV girl. At school, paranoia set in over Lauren. She thought it was one person the whole entire time, Owen says. Chloe Wilson was, in many ways, Lauren's opposite. Muscular with long dark hair and a natural confidence. Whether on the volleyball court or in a garage ping pong match, she was one of the freshmen who had moved up to varsity basketball. And the notion that Chloe could be a romantic threat wasn't far-fetched either. Both she and Owen say they did have off-and-on crushes on each other that school year. At lunch that fall, Lauren would sit at the same table as Chloe and her friends, a group of popular athlete girls. But Lauren grew afraid, Jill says, that some of these girls were the ones tormenting her. The text often invoked a we all hate you. The girls didn't much want to talk to Lauren either, let alone text her, for fear of getting pulled into the drama. That's why this story is so fascinating too, because it plays in that sandbox that we all kind of experience in high school about these different friend groups and popular people and not popular people. Owen too grew vigilant about who might be listening to him, terrified his words would be recycled into taunts, which often claimed to know his thoughts. He didn't want his classmates to see how much the cyberbully bothered him, like when they called him names like, quote, pussy bitch. Jill sensed the fact that the bully seemed female deepened the shame. He'd always been happy-go-lucky, but now he'd plead some days to stay home from school. On November 30th of 2021, Jill saw the news about a 15-year-old near Detroit who had brought a semi-automatic pistol to school and murdered 4 classmates. She found herself thinking of Owen and Lauren pushed to their limits. When Jill told Kendra she was going to meet with a sheriff's detective about the bully, she recalls that Kendra didn't hesitate, saying, I'll meet you there. From certain angles, Kendra resembled a modern-day supermom. A had-it-together, knew what she was doing kind of person, as a local parent put it. Kendra was the breadwinner, working as a bank branch supervisor and eventually in human resources at Central Michigan University, while Sean changed oil at a local auto body shop. Sean was a devoted father who took Ashley hunting, cheered her on at games, and coached her teams, but Kendra was the one who kept the family's life ticking, overseeing everything from Lauren's schedule to the family's finances. His coworkers at the auto body shop would joke about Kendra being his sugar mama. Quote, we would say Sean couldn't dress himself without her, says one. It didn't seem like anything malicious. He just let her do it all. In the spring of 2019, when Lauren was in 6th grade, Kendra got a new job at Ferris State University, a 40-minute drive away. The role was on the IT service desk as a specialist in cell phones. And she told her family that it came with a huge salary bump. A few months into the job during the fall that Lauren and Owen started dating, the family upgraded to a 4-bedroom rustic chic log cabin in the woods, which Sean called his dream home. Among themselves, locals started to speculate something was off. Over the following years, oddities stacked up. At the auto shop, Sean would unquestioningly pass along tidbits from Kendra, say that the family had missed house payments because someone in New Mexico had stolen their identity, or that his pickup truck had been repossessed because of a scammer in Saginaw. After Kendra's checks bounced for her portion of a spring break condo, she explained that she had gotten hacked. When the parents met with the sheriff in January of 2022, the McKinneys were struck by how little Sean seemed to know about the cyberbullying. His wife, on the other hand, had taken up the issue with zeal. That winter, still coaching 8th grade basketball, Kendra would trudge up to the high school coaches to talk about the texts, warning that the bullying could throw off Lauren's focus on the court. The coaches would commiserate and suggest solutions. Could the Lucaris change her number? Hold on to her phone? But Kendra never seemed to take their advice. Instead, she would come back the next day, drained, to discuss it again. She sought support from anyone who would listen. Another mother running the scoreboard at the basketball games, parents who barely knew her. She would text the Antcliffe twins, asking them to leave class to comfort Lauren when she was crying in the bathroom. So, a helicopter mom to the 9th, 10th degree, and also somebody that seemed to use it for her own benefit to actually form a social circle, to have a purpose, right? Students would sometimes see Kendra parked in the school lot in the middle of the day. She told people she worked for Ferris State from home and often showed up wearing the university's gear. In the hallways one day, Kendra told Owen's younger sister Macy that the bully had insulted Lauren's shirt, so she was bringing a change of clothes. Another time, Kendra saw Natalie Antcliffe in the parking lot and confided that it had taken hours for Lauren to get dressed that morning, that she was anxious about her performance at games because she expected it to become fodder for bullying. Natalie gave Kendra a hug, assuring her that the culprit would eventually be caught. After their children broke up, Dave McKinney had sent Kendra a long conciliatory message. "I don't think this means we can't still get together." As it happened, the escalating text gave them an urgent reason to keep talking. At Owen's basketball games, Kendra still sat next to Jill, sometimes prodding her reluctant daughter to show Jill the latest texts. On nights when the taunts were particularly vicious, Jill texted Kendra to check on Lauren in her bedroom. Other nights, the two mothers called each other, strategizing about their sleuthing. Jill sensed Kendra was still upset about the breakup. Kendra would ask if Jill thought their children would get back together, if the breakup was just because of the bully. On their calls, Kendra and Jill would circle the possibility that Chloe was behind these texts. Jill found the case persuasive. Several anonymous complaints against Chloe had trickled into OK to Say, the state's tip line for potential threats to students. One in middle school about yelling at a teammate on the court, another that year about Owen helping her during a test in computer class. Chloe often said, bruh, so did the texter. Chloe's father was a police sergeant. The texter mentioned they had cops to defend them. Kendra once complained that Lauren's Snapchat was hacked, and when she'd contacted the social network, Kendra claimed it told her the login came from Broomfield Township, where the Wilsons live. One weekend, the text came from the 906 area code, Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where Chloe was snowboarding with her family. Every night, Owen handed his cell to his parents, and Jill and Dave would lie in bed, reading the latest messages, analyzing the language and references. Jill would call the numbers, cueing an automated message from the burner apps. Or she sometimes pecked out a reply as Owen. Kind of pathetic you keep hiding behind fake numbers and repeating over and over. Quote, "If it looks neat and very Englishy," Owen later said of the text log, "it was not me." Once, while going through his phone, Jill texted Chloe, pretending to be her son, to test Chloe's reaction. Quote, "If this is you, be honest." Chloe FaceTimed Owen angrily. Owen, trying to navigate this mess without losing friends, iced out his mother for days. Lauren, for her part, would sometimes confront Chloe by text, asking her to air any issues to her face, but she still sat awkwardly with them at lunch and fell so silent. A ghost friend, one classmate tells me, that the main time they heard her talk was when she whispered a timid "here" during roll call. Lauren would complain to her father that because of the text, she didn't have any friends anymore. Still, she had one unwavering defender. In class, Lauren would often be texting. She told people she was writing her mother. At basketball tournaments, she sat by Kendra. As principal at Beale, Dan Boyer prided himself on running a tight ship. "I'm pretty good at figuring things out," he said. When Kendra and Jill first met with him and the superintendent in December of 2021, he started by poring over the texts. Early ones were complete sentences with proper capitalization, like, "You didn't get invited to sleep with him, I did." Not how kids text. Later ones got looser, using phrases like bruh, sorry not sorry, and WTF and RN. Right now, Boyer started showing the messages to teachers who read students' writing and coaches who texted with them. For a few days, Boyer had Lauren text him whenever she got a message in class. Boyer quickly texted the teachers to scan for students on their phones, but nothing conclusive. In early January, Kendra sent Boyer a numbered list of the investigative steps she understood he had taken and asked him to detail any others. The McKinneys and Lucaris wanted to address the girls' basketball team. Chloe and other suspects were on that team, and their parents directly, but Boyer refused. He didn't want a scene of emotional parents accusing children. He did, however, humor the mother's request for a sting operation after Kendra complained that Lauren's necklace and jersey had gone missing. Odd, Boyer said, in a school where it's like 1960s America. Kids don't lock their lockers. During basketball practice, Lauren's shoes were placed in Beal's sports foyer under surveillance cameras, and Boyer emailed Kendra like a cop at a stakeout. We are all set to track the shoes. The shoes sat untouched for hours until a custodian put them in the lost and found. Still in reviewing footage from the gymnasium, one thing did grab Boyer's attention. During practice, Coach Kendra was often head down on her phone. She usually carried two phones. One she said was for work and one personal. Again and again, a tug of war ensued between the school and the parents about what power they had over their children's phones. Each teacher set their own policy, and students were always sneaking peeks in class. The McKinneys pleaded for a new policy that phones stay in lockers so Owen and Ashley could focus. The school pushed back. Parents wouldn't tolerate it. They wanted a direct line to their children for emergencies. Boyer instead asked the parents to change their children's numbers. But Jill argued that as soon as Owen's new number appeared in a group text, the cyberbully would see it. Other parents wondered, why not just take the phones away? But that was how Owen stayed in touch with coaches and travel league teammates at other schools, how he accessed assignments in Google Classroom, his lifeline to being a normal teen. They don't even know how to function without it for an hour, Jill says. Each experiment failed to bring in a lead, so the school brought in the sheriff, Michael Maine. Craig Wilson, a police sergeant, wasn't particularly intimidated when Sheriff Maine called him in late January of 2022 to explain that his daughter Chloe was a suspect. I said, if Chloe is doing this, we severely miss something as parents. Really, when did his daughter have time to be a prolific harasser going from class to sports to homework to bed? What was in it for her? When Craig and his wife, Tammy, who are both in the documentary, you guys, they're a wild couple, confronted Chloe, she was tearful, insisting that she'd done nothing wrong. Owen and Ashley had already been questioning her, and Chloe had grown so sick of it that she once gave Owen her phone the entire day so he could see she wasn't sending the texts. Now, Chloe handed her phone to her father, who had cop colleagues download its contents. It came up clean. In a meeting, the sheriff showed the Wilsons pages of messages from the bully that Kendra had sent to him. Some texts included a screenshot of Snapchat DM exchanges with someone named Chloe. Chloe said she'd never sent those. Someone had created a ghost Snapchat account to impersonate her. She showed her father how easy that was to do. Chloe recognized other words as her, though, portions of her chats with Owen, which she'd screen recorded and sent to Lauren to prove they weren't flirting. Screenshotted bits of these exchanges were now, confusingly, also part of the bully's messages. Craig wasn't officially on the case as a cop. Sheriff Maine was handling it, but he wanted the truth fast. He and Tammy had a hunch. Added up. The weird texting in middle school about how Lauren wasn't invited to the Halloween party. Kendra's resentment of Chloe's moving to varsity. A trivial incident in a basketball tournament years earlier when Tammy and another mother had searched for a sticky mat for what felt like an eternity while Kendra stayed mum, only revealing she had stowed it in the equipment room after parents threatened to look at surveillance tape. Wow. In early February, Craig texted the sheriff, honestly, Mike, I don't know if you know Kendra or not, but you really need to be cautious. There's a pretty good part of me that thinks that she may very well be doing this. So Chloe's dad, the cop, suspected her very early in this. Instead, as winter turned to spring, the sheriff dragged 10 high schoolers whose names had come up in the investigation or in the text into the school office for questioning one by one. Some were Chloe's friends. The bully had even started texting girls Owen was talking to at other schools. One night, Owen yelled at Jill that it was her job as his mother to make the bullying stop. Jill cried in frustration. Everyone was reaching their breaking point. As softball started in the spring, the Antcliffe twins would see Lauren crying on the bus to games. Kendra would sometimes send them screenshots of the bully's text, like the one that had said, "All our lives would be better with you not here." Natalie Antcliffe worried every time Kendra would text or call that it would be the text or the call, saying that Lauren had tried to hurt herself. How much can a little girl take, Natalie thought. How much can one little girl take? Natalie thought it was Chloe. Quote, everyone thought that, she says, but also thought it was crazy for any teen to keep a secret this long. Meanwhile, Chloe felt herself wilting under the suspicion. This isn't trying to sound cocky, she says, but before the accusations, I just feel like a lot of people like me. The children she coached at volleyball class, upperclassmen on her teams, coaches. Chloe tried to keep a confident front at school, but when she got home, she'd close the door of her room to cry. Tammy and Craig Wilson weren't alone in the doubting Kendra. Little by little, people around town had started whispering about her, about the attention she seemed to continually seek. Another parent flipping through the pages of text with the Wilsons concluded, "This is an adult. I wouldn't put it past Kendra." Beal's secretary, Diane Fussman, told Principal Boyer she suspected her, which Boyer found implausible. "I always thought she was a little obsessive with her child, but my gut told me this just isn't one of our kids." Sheriff Maine ran the theory by Jill and Dave McKinney. Could it be Kendra? Absolutely not, Jill said. Another mother in town recalls the same thought flickering through her mind, scolding herself, "How dare you think a mother would ever do that?" Officer Brad Peter works on the Mid-Michigan Computer Crimes Task Force, a partnership between the FBI and local law enforcement. His police badge is from Bay City, an hour to Beale City's east, but the FBI had deputized him to investigate digital crimes. When Sheriff Maine asked him for help in April of 2022, he knew he'd need to move fast. The burner apps held onto a new subscriber records for about 2 weeks. So Peter asked Jill to send him the texter's latest phone numbers daily. Peter also emailed Kendra about the case. Sheriff Maine had relayed people's suspicion of her, but Peter say they both found that notion far-fetched. After 2 days of silence, Peter called her and proceeded to have what appeared to be an utterly normal conversation with a worried mother, talking about the toll on Lauren and musing about suspects. In mid-April, Jill sent Peter 4 new numbers, one used on Easter Sunday at 6:28 p.m. The Pinger app replied to Peter's search warrant. One number connected to Verizon network IP addresses out of the Ann Arbor and Detroit areas, and another to a server for the Beale schools. The school had boosted its Wi-Fi into the parking lot since COVID. When some students studied in their cars, Peter emailed the school's IT director. "I know that it's someone from the school doing this. I just can't figure out who." Beale's server logs didn't go back that far, so it was a dead end. Gradually, Jill was starting to pick up on strange signals from Kendra. Months after the breakup, Kendra kept prying into Owen's love interests, asking if he was dating Chloe. Annoyed, Jill firmly told her that they'd talk only about the bully going forward. In early May, long after basketball season was over, Dave spotted Kendra's gray Explorer parked near the Catholic church half a block from school. Inside, Kendra was looking down at her lap. She glanced up at Dave and waved. Later that day, unprompted, Kendra brought it up to Jill on the phone. "Oh, I'm sure Dave thought it was funny seeing me in the parking lot," she remembers Kendra saying. "I drove to Beale to get gas and got a coffee, and I spilled it all over me, so I pulled it in there to wipe it off." Jill sniffed a lie, but why? Meanwhile, the bully was scraping bottom with nowhere worse to go. Back in November, the bully had told Lauren that Owen said his life would be better if you were dead. Then a half hour later, they took it back. "Sorry, I shouldn't say dead. That was too far." But in mid-May, there were no apologies. "Kill yourself now, bitch," the anonymous person wrote in all capitals. The following week, Peter got word from Verizon about those IP addresses, that the bully's number had connected to over Easter weekend from Ann Arbor and Detroit. Peter opened the trove. Hundreds of phone numbers had connected to those addresses over the next 2 days. He dug in, searching for all the numbers he had from the people related to the case, including the parents. One number, and only one, appeared. 2 months later, in August, Sheriff Maine turned into the gravel driveway of a beige ranch home. It was Sean's mother's place. As the sheriff drove up, Kendra was hauling out the trash. Maine and a detective stepped out of their car. They were there to seize Kendra's devices. Okay, so that's interesting. The house that we see in the documentary with all those alcohol bottles, that was Sean's mother's place. So I'm curious about that. What happened next is memorialized in the flat procedural voice of the sheriff's investigative log. Maine denied requests for an interview. The sheriff handed Kendra a search warrant saying she was being investigated as the cyberbully. When she denied it, the sheriff told her to be honest. Her number showed up each time a text was sent. Was she infatuated with Owen? Kendra said no, nothing like that. The sheriff demanded that she explain. Finally, something shifted. Kendra, very uncomfortable, the sheriff wrote, claimed that the initial text did not come from her, but she said she fed off from it and began to send them. She said that a group of kids really was trying to come between Ashley and Owen. But why, Maine asked, did it continue? Stress and financial issues, Kendra said. Ashley, Lauren, was there too. And after the sheriff told her that she dialed her father. A coworker at the auto shop remembers Sean red-faced and in shock, stammering, "They think it's Kendra." He raced home in a loaner car. The sheriff intercepted him outside, and Sean told him that his wife owned a third phone and had been evasive when he asked about it. That device, a gold iPhone, was nestled in a stack of wood outside. Kendra had stashed it there when the sheriff drove up. That day, the sheriff delivered a second blow. Kendra, the family's breadwinner, hadn't worked in a year. There was a lot about the family's finances that Kendra had hidden. Her job change in 2019 when Ashley was in sixth grade was in fact the result of Central Michigan University's firing her for her performance. The new job wage bump she'd claimed, and collectors were filing suit in court for unpaid utility and insurance bills. Later that fall, when Owen asked Lauren out and the first text arrived, the Lucari's one-story house was foreclosed on. Kendra told her family she had sold it. The Lucaris moved into the log cabin after entering into a land contract, a way to buy a house, often for those with bad credit, in which buyers pay installments directly to the owner. By the spring of 2021, Lauren's eighth grade year, Kendra's managers at Fair Estate had put her on a performance improvement plan, citing excessive time on non-work texting and calls. She told them she was overwhelmed and stressed out from COVID and sports. The August of Lauren's freshman year, falling short on her performance plan, Kendra quit. Throughout that school year, as the texts rained in at all hours, Kendra maintained she was working from home, feigning work calls when Sean was around. According to a family member, whenever he would ask Kendra about anything financial, she would change the subject to the cyberbully. During Lauren's freshman fall, after a series of excuses from Kendra about PayPal and cashier's check hiccups, the cabin's owner started the eviction process. In April of 2022, just before the FBI-affiliated task force got involved in the case, the court received a request from the Lucaris to delay getting evicted from the cabin. They were weathering unemployment, the letter said. We do not have any other place to go and are completely terrified of being homeless with our daughter. The court evicted them that month. Kendra told her family that the house's foundation had cracked and they had to move out while it was lifted up for repairs. News of Kendra's confessions rippled through Beale. After Owen's football practice, Jill and Dave both called both the children to the front porch. Owen remained quiet, staring out into the yard in shock and anger. I didn't show a lot of emotion, he says, but on the inside it was definitely super loud. Paige Antcliffe, getting the call from her boyfriend's mother, broke down in an auto lot where she was getting her first car for college, feeling used. Chloe put her parents on speaker while standing in a friend's kitchen. The girls screamed in relief. After Kendra was arrested in December of 2022, a student saw Lauren loading stuff from her locker into her book bag. She finished sophomore year in an online school, alone, behind a screen. The following spring, Kendra pleaded guilty to 2 counts of cyberstalking. At her sentencing, Kendra read from a typed page, her voice racked with sobs. I am sorry for my behavior to Owen McKinney and his family. I am sorry for my behavior to Chloe Wilson and her family. I am sorry to my daughter Lauren and my husband Sean. Kendra continued, explaining that she had now learned through months of counseling that she had a mental illness. She mentioned depression, anxiety, and suppressed childhood trauma, including sexual abuse, and was unaware that I was in crisis for many years. The judge sentenced her to 19 months in prison. Even now, Chloe says, all I want to know is why she did that. Owen remains puzzled too. Was the bullying an attempt to draw him and Lauren closer together? Or what actually happened to drive them apart? It's just super confusing, he says. To Principal Boyer, her likely motive was keeping her kids close to her, eliminating threatening relationships. Significant in his mind, the text started when Ashley hit 7th grade, when girls start pulling away from their parents. According to one of her attorneys, Kendra insisted that she didn't send the first text, but saw how they made others rally around her family. So she continued, he said. Then it just got out of hand. The picture pieced together from different accounts supports this notion. No matter how the texting began, at some point the lights switched on. That an anonymous bully would offer Lauren and Owen a common enemy, bring attention to her quiet daughter, and make Kendra into even more of a supermom. Maintain her social alliances, distract from her mounting financial problems, and occupy the empty hours. It was a blessing that I was caught, she said at her sentencing, because it forced me to stop. When the superintendent broke the news to Boyer, Boyer observed, it's like cyber Munchausen's. Boyer didn't know it at the time, but the phenomenon is one psychiatrists have been tracking for decades. In the 90s, Dr. Mark Feldman, then an associate professor of psychiatry in the University of Alabama at Birmingham, who specializes in Munchausen syndrome, was told about a man claiming to be a Catholic monk in an online support group. The man posted about his fast-progressing cancer and how, given his vow of poverty, he couldn't seek any treatment. At first, people in the group offered sympathy, but over time, some grew suspicious. When someone finally challenged him, the man admitted it was a hoax. He wasn't a monk and had never had cancer. Feldman saw the monk as a twist on his clinical speciality. Munchausen's is a mental health disorder in which patients feign or purposely induce medical problems. The motive is partly to gratify an emotional need, to marshal the support and attention reserved for the ill. The behavior often feeds on itself, becoming addictive or compulsive, according to patients. People who struggle to define themselves tap into an instant identity: patient, victim, hero. In 2000, Feldman wrote a paper on the disorder calling it Munchausen by Internet, and has watched its manifestations track the advance of tech, from the early online forums to those feigning diseases on GoFundMe or TikTok. Munchausen experts think the digital variety will likely become the most common sort. Ruses are easier on the disembodied internet. No one needs to get physically hurt. In 2017, Feldman joined colleagues to study the phenomenon among undergrads. About 2% of the responding college students admitted to bullying themselves under an alias, and another 2% reported faking an identity to bully a friend online, and then as themselves heroically coming to the friend's defense. Feldman helped revise the most recent Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders to acknowledge that the condition can play out partially or entirely online. Deep in the 2017 study, which was never published, the Alabama researchers predicted where the trend could lead: parents cyberbullying their own child in the same way that some parents feign illnesses in their child to satisfy their own psychological needs. Wow. I mean, think about how, even if we're not, how many people hide behind their social media. I mean, I deal with this with hate comments, or it's always from some fake picture, some fake name. It's so common, but this is taking it to that next level, right? After Lauren returned to Beale City for junior year, Owen avoided her. He even felt anger towards her. So many in town asked, how could she not have known? Chloe and her parents thought Lauren must have known. Why had she always been texting her mother in class? Natalie Ancliffe, who got back in touch with Lauren once she returned to town, says, yes, Lauren had started to consider that her mother could be the bully, but only in the last month before the sheriff showed up. So that's interesting information. After many interview requests, Kendra wrote me from prison. She thanked me for seeking her side of the story and said she'd be ready to talk after her release, then never replied again. Yeah, because she was doing a documentary. In her email, she wrote, I do ask that you truly think about the kids, minor kids, that are involved in, that are involved in this situation, including my daughter, who is trying to move forward and has a bright future ahead of herself. These stories are doing additional harm to her. I can handle the pain, but she cannot and does not deserve it. She is moving forward with her life and doesn't deserve to be put in the spotlight anymore, or having people thinking her mom is a villain, and that is hard mentally and emotionally for her. Well, I hope this daughter got paid for this documentary then, because this just explodes it to that next level. Kendra was released last August. Sean had divorced her and received full custody, and she is living with a family near Detroit, reportedly allowed even less contact with her daughter than when she was in prison. This May, Lauren, Owen, and Chloe will graduate from Beale City. Chloe Wilson signed a college volleyball deal in the school's trophy line foyer. Owen, senior homecoming king, made a soaring catch in the end zone for a touchdown during the state football final, which he memorialized on Instagram. His younger sister Macy still sits with Lauren at lunch with a tacit agreement to never mention the cyberbullying. It would have made it, I'm so glad this was released. The documentary was released after they graduated. It would have made a nice ending, but this is the age of true crime content machine. While Kendra was still in prison, Lifetime released a movie loosely based on what happened in Beale, titled Mommy Meanest. It stars Lisa Rinna as a Machiavellian brunette mother harassing her daughter, which somebody in our Facebook group brought this up today. I've got to watch this. God. And last year, a crew from Campfire Studios, a glossy Los Angeles-based production company, came to Central Michigan to film. That's the documentary that was just released on Netflix. Everyone was like, oh, are you talking to him? Are you talking to him? Says one mother. Word around town is that nearly the full cast of the saga sat for interviews, including Kendra, Lauren, and Sean. The Beale City School Board wouldn't let Campfire film on site, so the crew and many sources trekked to a city hall in a nearby town. For B-roll, Boyer and the superintendent stood on the sidewalk and chatted, like we're talking this through. The documentary is expected to premiere this year on Netflix. Campfire Studios declined to comment, and Netflix did not respond to requests. At the Wilsons' last Halloween party, Tammy dressed as a scarecrow in a prison jumpsuit and a mask of Kendra's mugshot, phones clutched in its gnarled hands. At one point, she pondered gathering friends in Beale for a big watch party of the documentary. Then she changed her mind. Maybe it would be too emotional to relive this whole thing again. Maybe best, she said, to just watch it as a family. Wow. What a great article. Once again, this is from The Cut and it is written by Lauren Smiley. But I thought that provided a lot of context, really filled in some of the gaps, but truly just an insane story. What did you guys think about it? What did you feel about it? What do you still want to know? I mean, there is still so much I want to know. And these kids, man, and especially Lauren. But yeah, wow. Okay, that is it. I just creeped myself out. So hang on, we've got our next interview coming up in just one sec.